Now at the age of 80, Dirk Benedict has decided to break his silence regarding George Peppard. Born under the name Dirk Nuanor on the first day of March in 1945 in Helena, Montana, Benedict rose from modest beginnings in the countryside to establish himself as a defining face of television during the latter years of the 1970s and throughout the 1980s. The expansive, tranquil terrain of Montana during his youth instilled in him values of authenticity, independence, and appreciation for the natural world, characteristics that would eventually influence how he approached his craft and presented himself to the public. With a mother who nurtured artistic expression and a father who instilled the principles of dedication and perseverance, Benedict absorbed the lesson that achievement demands both creative vision and relentless effort. These formative years cultivated a personality that would eventually win over countless viewers through his magnetic appeal, intelligence, and remarkable talent. Benedict's entrance into the performing arts was serendipitous rather than planned. During his time as a student at Whitman College in Washington State, he stumbled upon theatrical performance and immediately recognized it as his true passion. What began as exploration transformed into a vocation that consumed him entirely. Following his graduation, he threw himself into pursuing acting professionally, earning theatrical roles that highlighted his range of abilities, from dramatic intensity to comedic brilliance and innate likability. His theatrical accomplishments eventually led to opportunities in Hollywood, where throughout the early part of the 1970s, he obtained modest yet impactful parts in both cinema and television. Among his initial notable performances was his appearance in the unconventional horror picture from 1973, portraying a youth experiencing a strange metamorphosis. The role brought him recognition among broader audiences and established his capacity for portraying unusual and challenging characters. Yet it was 1978 that truly launched Dirk Benedict into widespread fame. Taking on the part of Lieutenant Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica, he embodied a cocky, cigar-chomping space warrior whose defiant attitude, mischievous appeal, and generous spirit immediately resonated with viewers. Starbuck represented a study in contrasts, confident yet fragile, impulsive yet deeply devoted, and Benedict animated each dimension with what appeared to be natural ease. The rapport he shared with his fellow actors, particularly Richard Hatch and Lorette Spang, contributed significantly to the program's lasting popularity. Among devoted followers, Benedict's interpretation of Starbuck stands as one of the quintessential protagonists of classic science fiction television, an archetype whose confidence and levity established benchmarks for subsequent television heroes. During the decade that followed, Dirk achieved renewed prominence through yet another legendary part, Templeton Faceman Peck on The A-Team. Portraying the suave swindler with matinee idol features, Face emerged as a pivotal character in the wildly successful action program that aired between 1983 and 1987. Benedict's interpretation combined smoothness, playfulness, and self-assurance in a manner that balanced comedy with heroism. Audiences embraced his verbal dexterity, his ingenious tactics, and the ease with which he handled the pandemonium of the squad's seemingly impossible operations. The A-Team evolved into one of the era's most memorable television programs, with Benedict's contribution as Faceman ranking among his most significant achievements in entertainment history. His work created a lasting impression on global audiences and cemented his position as a prominent figure in television. Outside his professional achievements, Benedict has gained recognition for his unwavering beliefs, particularly concerning wellness, nutrition, and personal choices. Following his survival from prostate cancer during his earlier years, an ordeal that fundamentally altered his perspective, he embraced alternative healing methods and adopted a macrobiotic nutritional approach. His memoir, Confessions of a Kamikaze Cowboy, provides a candid, occasionally light-hearted and profoundly introspective examination of his health crisis, his path toward understanding himself, and the wisdom he gained throughout the experience. Benedict's philosophy centers on individual accountability, harmonious living with nature, and the necessity of remaining faithful to one's authentic self, even when such choices challenge contemporary norms. In 2010, Dirk Benedict astonished and pleased devoted admirers when he returned to performance, this time on the live stage, by headlining a British production of Prescription Murder. Assuming the legendary part of Lieutenant Columbo for the Middle Ground Theatre Company, Benedict infused the cherished detective with both contemporary vitality and sentimental charm. Spectators were mesmerized by his skill in merging Columbo's characteristic mannerisms with his own compelling magnetism, reimagining the timeless figure as simultaneously recognizable and refreshingly original. His theatrical work showcased not merely his adaptability, but his profound appreciation for enduring narratives, confirming that Benedict commanded audiences as effortlessly upon the stage as he had through television monitors many years prior. That identical year, as a delightful surprise for admirers of the A-Team, he contributed a short but significant cameo in the 2010 major motion picture remake, portraying Pensacola prisoner Milt. Although the sequence was brief, audiences instantly identified him, and his inclusion functioned as a touching acknowledgement of the original program that contributed to defining a generation. Almost 10 years afterwards, in 2019, Benedict explored an entirely separate realm of entertainment when he joined the bizarre and unconventional world of Space Ninjas, an unapologetically eccentric B-grade film crafted by writer and director Scott McQuaid.
Within this campy science fiction comedy horror hybrid, Benedict played Jack Strange, an unconventional television presenter whose program, Stranger Than Fiction, functions as a peculiar yet captivating fusion of The Twilight Zone with The X-Files. Employing his characteristic style, Benedict welcomed the peculiar qualities of the character, embracing its comedy, enigma, and intentionally overblown appeal. Space Ninjas tracks a collection of secondary school students who become entangled in a turbulent extraterrestrial assault, with Benedict's sequences functioning as a whimsically unsettling compass through their fantastical predicament. His contribution emerged as among the production's most memorable aspects, demonstrating to viewers that he has consistently welcomed creative gambles and pursued unconventional opportunities. Even within a modest-budget B picture, Benedict's compelling aura enhances the narrative, proving his ability to render any endeavor memorable merely through his participation. In 1986, Dirk Benedict began a significant and intimate phase of his existence when he wed actress Toni Hudson. During this period, Benedict had already achieved considerable fame for his captivating on-screen persona, most notably for his memorable portrayal of the charming Templeton Faceman Peck on the A-Team. Hudson, for her part, had established her own reputation within the entertainment business, participating in numerous film and television productions throughout the 1980s. Their paths converged in a manner that seemed orchestrated by fate itself. Hudson had made a guest appearance during the A-Team's 4th season in an episode entitled Blood, Sweat, and Cheers, where she performed the role of Dana. This professional encounter, emerging from their mutual involvement in the industry, eventually developed into an authentic romantic relationship culminating in matrimony. Together, Benedict and Hudson had 2 sons, George and Roland, who became Benedict's primary focus during his time away from professional obligations. As he frequently acknowledged in subsequent conversations with journalists, becoming a parent provided him with stability and meaning that stood in sharp contrast to the hectic rhythm and uncertainty of entertainment careers. He discussed both the rewards and challenges of nurturing his children and the profound value he placed on being an engaged, available father, particularly following years devoted to transitioning between productions, characters, and professional commitments. Nevertheless, Despite their initial bond and shared experiences, the union between Benedict and Hudson ultimately faced obstacles that proved insurmountable. Following approximately 10 years of marriage, the pair separated in 1995. The dissolution represented a challenging chapter for Benedict, who has candidly discussed the psychological impact of marital dissolution and the difficulties inherent in reconciling public visibility with private duties.
Nevertheless, both he and Hudson sustained their dedication to providing their children with affection and security, preserving a connection focused on collaborative parenting instead of animosity. Only a few years subsequent, in 1998, Benedict underwent another significant revelation that transformed his comprehension of his personal history. During that year, he discovered that he had fathered another child from an earlier involvement, a son who had been given up for adoption without his awareness at the time. This disclosure, arriving more than 10 years following his ascent to television prominence, proved both moving and life-altering. Benedict characterized the revelation as an unanticipated blessing, an opportunity to establish a relationship with a young adult who had matured without knowledge of his biological origins. The discovery intensified Benedict's contemplations regarding family, fate, and the manner in which existence can reveal startling realities long after one assumes the past has been concluded. His subsequent connection with his third son introduced an additional layer to his self-perception as both a parent and an individual who had navigated successes, disappointments, and instances of significant self-discovery. Now, at 80 years of age, Dirk Benedict has at last decided to share his closely held recollections of collaborating with his A-team colleague, the departed George Peppard, an individual who, according to Benedict, stands among the most unjustly mischaracterized performers that Hollywood has ever known. Presently, viewing matters from the vantage point that only advanced years, accumulated wisdom, and extensive retrospection can offer, Benedict discusses his former co-star with a blend of respect, frankness, and raw honesty regarding the individual who anchored the legendary 1980s television program with a force that proved equally powerful off-camera as it appeared on screen. The public assumed they understood George because they witnessed him portraying Hannibal, Benedict clarifies, yet what they observed represented merely a small portion of the complexity that existed behind that refined, authoritative persona. Benedict remembers that from the outset, Peppard conducted himself like a traditional Hollywood commander, methodical, astute, and unwilling to tolerate anything he deemed lacking in professionalism. This quality rendered him simultaneously a source of stability and, occasionally, an imposing figure during production. He belonged to an earlier generation, Benedict observes. He demanded that you memorize your dialogue, execute your staging precisely, show consideration for the production staff, and approach the work with seriousness. He rejected cutting corners, had no patience for incompetence, and if you arrived unprepared, he would address it directly. While certain cast members found themselves taken aback by Peppard's uncompromising expectations, Benedict now understands how this rigor actually improved everyone's performance. George enhanced your abilities even when you remained unaware of it, he continues. He maintained that television deserved the same level of professionalism and respectability as cinema, and he advocated for precisely that. Their dynamic was not consistently harmonious, yet it was founded upon mutual professional regard. Benedict concedes that during his younger years, self-assured, intellectually nimble, and comfortable with a more relaxed methodology, he occasionally disagreed with Peppard's more inflexible techniques. But with the passage of time, he came to recognize the underlying reasons for that exterior. George wasn't severe because he wished to create difficulties. He had seen how the entertainment industry can destroy individuals. He was convinced that the sole method of enduring was to maintain your principles and execute the work with integrity. What audiences seldom understood, Benedict explains, was the extent of Peppard's generosity and protectiveness when filming concluded. He possessed this extraordinary devotion. If he held you in high esteem, he would defend you without a moment's hesitation. Benedict recalls instances when Peppard championed the cast's working conditions, advocated for reasonable filming schedules, and demanded that the ensemble receive treatment equivalent to that afforded the principal actor. He didn't merely command the team before the cameras, he guided it away from them as well.
He ensured we got what we needed to perform our responsibilities properly. Still, Benedict also recognizes Peppard's internal conflicts, his dissatisfaction with the entertainment business, his struggles against being pigeonholed, and his sporadic challenges in adjusting to evolving circumstances. There existed a melancholy in him, Benedict observes quietly. He desired to be recognized as a substantial performer, not simply as someone who consumed cigars and operated a dark-colored van. But he simultaneously grasped how profoundly the audience cherished Hannibal. He never articulated it, but I believe he treasured that bond more deeply than he revealed. Presently, with multiple decades of separation, Benedict speaks with unmistakable fondness. I held respect for George during our time together, but I hold admiration for him today. He contends that Peppard's contribution warrants reconsideration, not merely as the representative of a cherished action program, but as a rigorously trained, profoundly dedicated performer who never ceased pursuing mastery. He imparted more knowledge to me than I recognized at the time. And if there is one message I wish audiences to understand, it is that behind every critical remark or stern expression existed an individual who valued the profession, cared about the production, and indeed cared about his colleagues.